The underwater throne room was deadly silent, until Princess Elira's voice cut through it like a blade. "She is not the true heir," she shouted, pointing her trembling finger at the queen. "That child she holds, she's not hers." Gasps echoed through the palace as Queen Nerida clutched her son tighter, her emerald tail coiled, defensive, eyes wide with fury and disbelief. Behind her, guards shifted uncomfortably. The royal advisors glanced at one another, uncertain. "You dare accuse me?" Nerida hissed. "In front of the court?" "I have proof," Elira said, stepping forward. Her voice cracked, but her resolve did not. "That child is mine. You swapped him with yours the night of the lunar blessing. I know what you did." The crowd murmured. Some looked to the priestess, who had long remained silent, but not now. "She speaks the truth," the old woman said, stepping between them. "The magic confirms it. Queen Nerida, your son, was born second." The room erupted into chaos. Elira's heart pounded as she watched Nerida's mask crack for the first time. The queen's grip loosened. Her smile faded. And just like that, the secret she'd buried for 7 years had begun to unravel. But it didn't start this way. In the depths of the Emerald Sea, Queen Nerida of Avalis gave birth under the silver light of the lunar bloom. Her son, Kylan, emerged silently, wrapped in kelp silk, his eyes strangely dull. The kingdom rejoiced nonetheless. The prophecy foretold that the child born under the full lunar eclipse would rule with unmatched power. But they didn't know there were 2 royal births that night. Miles away, in a hidden coral cave, Elira, Nerida's cousin, labored alone. Her baby boy, Riven, was born just minutes before Kylan, eyes bright and shimmering with lunar glow. Her heart swelled. She knew what it meant. Her son was the true heir. Fear gripped her. Nerida had always been cunning. With the throne at stake, would she honor prophecy or cling to power? Elira fled to the palace, clutching her baby close, hoping to reason with Nerida. But Nerida was one step ahead. She welcomed Elira coldly, whispered to her maidens, and served her warm honey-root tea. By midnight, Elira had collapsed into a poisoned sleep. And when she awoke, her arms were empty. A nursemaid stood by, cooing over a baby boy, Kylan. But Elira recognized the blanket, the moon-spun thread. That was her son. She tried to scream, to move, but her body was weak, her voice hollow. Nerida leaned in close, her whisper sharp as a blade. "Thank you for the gift, cousin. My throne will be safe now." And so, the lie began buried beneath the tides. Elira was banished to the outer reef the next morning. Officially, she had fallen ill after giving birth. Unofficially, she was a threat Nerida couldn't afford to keep near the palace. Her voice was silenced, her title erased. The court was told she'd renounced motherhood due to madness. They believed it. Nerida returned to the throne with Kylan in her arms. The people celebrated. The lunar heir had arrived. Coral banners flew through Avalis, and musicians played through the reef caverns. No one questioned the switch. No one noticed the subtle difference in the child's aura or chose not to. Meanwhile, Elira faded into legend. She lived in a barnacle-covered hut near the trench, watched by palace guards, and fed scraps by curious sea urchins. Her body healed, but her heart did not. She whispered Riven's name every night into the seagrass, hoping he could feel it. Years passed. Riven raised as Kylan grew under Nerida's strict watch. He was quiet, thoughtful, and oddly curious about the old stories. But Nerida discouraged questions. "You are the chosen one," she'd say. "That's all that matters." But fate has a memory. One day, a wandering sea priestess visited the trench. She saw Elira and paused. "The light around you. It's dimmed, but not gone," she said softly. "Your truth still floats near the surface. When the ocean is ready, it will rise." Elira didn't understand. Not yet. But the tides were beginning to shift. On Riven's 7th birthday, the palace held a grand festival. Banners spun through the current, and musicians played on shimmering conch shell flutes. But Riven felt restless. That morning, He'd dreamed of a woman in a kaveh, face warm and sad. She had whispered his name, Riven, not Kalen. He asked Nerida about it. Her smile froze. "It's just a dream," she said. "Dreams are nothing." But that night, Riven snuck away from his coral chamber, wandering past the royal kelp guards and into the old chamber of scrolls. There, he found a tapestry. It depicted two babies under the lunar bloom. One wore a crown. The other, a glowing mark on his tail, the true heir's mark. He had the mark. He had seen it once, glowing faintly on his fin during a moonlit swim. His heart pounded. He returned to his bed and lay still, staring at the dark. The next morning, the tapestry was gone. Burned. By Nerida's order. But Riven remembered. And far away, Elira jerked awake in her reef hut, her chest aching. She didn't know why, but her son's spirit had stirred something ancient in the waters. The tides were whispering. The priestess returned to Elira's reef, this time not alone. With her came a seahorse courier bearing a scroll sealed with the royal crest. Elira's hands trembled as she opened it. It was unsigned. One sentence only. "Your son lives. He remembers nothing." Elira dropped to her knees, breath stolen from her. The pain, the fury, the hope, it flooded her all at once. After all these years, Riven was alive. But how? Who had written it? She didn't wait to find out. She swam faster than she had in years, heart racing toward the city of Avalis. But the guards stopped her at the borders. "Elira of the Outlands," one sneered. "The queen says you are forbidden to enter." "Elira of Avalis," she corrected, her voice hard as coral. "And I will return." Back at the palace, Riven sat with a private tutor, distracted. He asked questions about his birth, about the lunar bloom, about why no other children were born that night. "Too many questions are dangerous," the tutor warned. But Riven had learned something about danger. It didn't frighten him anymore. That evening, a palace maid whispered to him in passing. "She's alive," the woman said. "The one who bore you." Riven stared. The pieces were falling. In the hidden library beneath the palace, Riven found a forbidden relic. The mirror shella, sacred object said to reveal true lineage when touched under moonlight. He sneaked it into his chamber and waited until the water above shimmered with the lunar beam. Holding the shell, he stared into its curved surface. Two faces appeared. Nerida, and a woman he had never seen, but somehow knew. Elira, his real mother. The shell cracked in his hand, a final gasp of magic, and his heart cracked with it. That night, he confronted Nerida. "I saw her. I saw the truth." Nerida didn't deny it. "You were born to nothing," she said coldly. "I gave you everything. You gave me a lie." They stood in silence. "I'm going to find her," he said. "You'll be prince no longer." "Then I'd rather be a beggar with truth than a king built on a lie." He swam away. No guards followed. Not yet. Elira waited at the trench's edge, heart pounding. Something in the water had shifted. Then she saw Hema boy with silver eyes, swimming with purpose. He stopped just a few lengths away. "Are you Elira?" She nodded slowly. "And you are Riven." For a moment, neither moved. Then Riven surged forward, and Elira wrapped her arms around him, clutching him like a lifeline. "I've dreamed of you," he said, voice cracking. "I didn't understand until now." Elira pulled back, cupping his face. "I've never stopped whispering your name into the current." He glanced behind him. "We don't have long. She'll find out." "I know," Elira said, "but we don't run anymore." They swam to her hidden cove. She showed him her journals, sketches, the blanket she'd sewn with moon thread, the same one he'd been wrapped in as a baby. Tears shimmered in Riven's eyes. But in the palace, Nerida already knew. Through a crystal orb, she had watched their reunion. Her face twisted with fury. "She stole him from me," Nerida hissed. "She poisoned his mind." A servant stepped back, fearful. Nerida turned toward her war chamber, summoning her private guard, a deadly group of reef assassins trained to eliminate threats quietly. "She will not take the throne from me," Nerida swore. She dipped her hand in black coral ink, sealing a scroll with her blood. "Deliver this to the Shadow Guard," By midnight, the shadow guard slipped from the reef, armored in obsidian scales. Their orders: eliminate Illyra before dawn. Meanwhile, Illyra and Riven stayed hidden in the cove, catching up on years of absence. Riven wept quietly as she spoke of the night he was taken, of how Nerida poisoned her and paraded him as her own. I loved her, he said, even if it was a lie. She raised you with lies, Illyra said softly, but you are not hers. Just before dawn, Illyra felt something unnatural stillness in the current. Go, she said, pushing Riven toward the coral passage. Now. Then shadows struck. The first blade grazed her fin. She fought with fierce strength, deflecting blows with shards of coral and ocean force magic. She was no longer the forgotten mother. She was the sea's fury reborn. Riven returned moments later with a priestess and summoned guards. A glowing shield encased the cove, and the assassins fled, tails streaking through the dark water. The priestess stared at Illyra, blood staining her side. She sent killers. The queen has declared war. Illyra's face hardened. Then, we answer. At the palace, Nerida fumed. Failed? She still breathes? The lead assassin knelt. She's protected by ancient magic. Nerida gritted her teeth. She wants a war of truth. So be it. She swam to her chamber and opened a hidden vault. Inside, a relic long banned by the sea gods, the Leviathan Eye. It didn't just destroy flesh, it rewrote memory. Riven paced Illyra's cove, eyes flicking to the entrance every few seconds. She'll try again, he muttered. She always does. She won't stop, Illyra replied, until she owns the past and the future. They needed more than truth, they needed proof. The priestess gave them a key, a moonstone buried in the temple archives. It recorded births blessed under the lunar bloom. The next night, Riven and Illyra snuck into the Temple of Echoes. They avoided temple guards, slipping into the archive vault. There it was, a crystal scroll glowing faintly under moonlight. Illyra held her breath as she unrolled it. There, etched in coral script, firstborn of the lunar eclipse, Riven, son of Illyra. They had it. But as they turned to leave, a cold current swept in. Nerida stood at the entrance, Leviathan Eye floating beside her. Its glow was eerie, twisting the water like a cyclone. You wanted truth? She whispered. Let's see how truth tastes when memory burns. She unleashed the relic. Pain lanced through Riven's skull. He screamed. Memories flooding, then flickering Illyra. The prophecy, the cavial blurring. Illyra cried out, Fight it, Riven! Fight her lies! The priestess appeared just in time, summoning a warding circle of lunar runes. The relic's beam flickered, sputtered, and stopped. Riven collapsed into Illyra's arms. He blinked and remembered everything. The eye cracked, split by the priestess's chant. Nerida retreated, shaken, but her final plan had failed. For now, with the proof in hand and Nerida exposed, Illyra and Riven presented their case to the High Council. The court chamber, carved from coral and pearl, pulsed with tension. Nerida stood tall, but the fear in her eyes was new. Illyra stepped forward first. For 7 years, I was erased. For 7 years, my son lived a lie, but the ocean remembers. She handed the scroll to the council. The priestess added, We confirmed it. The sea itself marked Riven. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Then Riven rose. She stole my past, he said, his voice calm, and tried to rewrite my future. I won't let her do it to Avalis. The council deliberated for hours. Finally, the verdict came. The throne belongs to Riven, born of Illyra, blessed by the lunar bloom. Cheers erupted. Nerida lunged, but guards restrained her. Let me speak, she roared. Illyra approached her calmly. You already have, she said, with poison, with lies. Nerida was sentenced to permanent exile in the abyssal ruins alone, her magic stripped. Illyra watched her go without triumph. I don't celebrate pain, she told Riven, but I protect truth. Riven nodded, tears in his eyes. His real life had finally begun. Riven's coronation was unlike any before it. He wore no crown, only the moon mark visible on his tail. The people bowed, not to power but to truth. Elira stood beside him, restored to her place in Avalis. Riven changed laws that once silenced women like Elira. He made sure no child could ever be stolen, no truth buried, no heir forgotten. Yet peace came with echoes. In the quiet, Riven still felt the sting of betrayal, not from Nerida but from his own silence. "I should have known," he told Elira. "You were just a boy," she said gently. "But now, you're a king." Still, deep in the reef shadows, whispers lingered, rumors that Nerida had left behind more than just scars. She had disciples, and they hadn't forgotten. Strange attacks began on the outskirts of Avalis. Coral farms were razed, fish herds scattered. The new Queen's Guard investigated and found symbols burned into sea stone, Nerida's crest. Elira was worried. Her exile wasn't enough. Riven agreed. So he returned to the abyssal ruins. Nerida was gone. Her cell shattered, her chains melted. Only one message remained carved into the wall with bone. "The sea remembers, so will he." At the heart of Avalis, Riven stood atop the tidal spire, watching the sea swirl with unease. But he was not the boy he once was. He was heir. He was truth. He was legacy. And no, he was ready. He rebuilt the old reef temples, created archives open to all, and established a moon guard to protect royal children. Elira smiled from beside him, her hair streaked with silver now. "You've done what no one else could. Because you never stopped believing in me," he said. And in the quiet glow of the lunar bloom, with the kingdom watching, Riven raised his hand not to rule with force, but to lead with light. The truth had won. And the sea? It finally sang again. The moral lesson of this story is that truth may be buried by lies, but it always finds its way to the surface.